It's the Brad and John Show.
We're back at it, Brad and John Show. This is Block B, November 26th. Once again, we do this show live every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time. Now, John, a little housekeeping here before we go back into this segment. What are we doing on Friday? Do you want to do the show on Friday, or are you up for that, or you got...
We're going to follow the precedent from last year, and we'll be back on Monday.
Okay, so so tomorrow will be our last show for the week then.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, I got this article I saw yesterday. Matter of fact, I saw it in a couple different sites about the Chicago School District. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
The teachers are on strike, or they're trying to go on strike again. And what's interesting, let me bring it up here. The Chicago Tribune, and once again, I believe the Chicago Tribune is a very progressive, left-leaning publication. Would I be safe to say that?
Yeah, I don't think they're conservative, that's for sure.
Okay, they have essentially called out the Chicago School District, saying that they use the word outlandish teachers union for demanding higher pay. And quoting literally, they said, the Chicago Tribune said, the teachers in Chicago should be embarrassed for asking for more pay. Can you believe this?
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, everybody reaches a breaking point, don't you say? What else did they say, Brad?
Well, get this. Noting the median yearly salary for Chicago public school teachers is nearly $95,000. And matter of fact, in the editorial, and this is the editorial board, it said, Chicago public schools teachers are extraordinarily well paid given the norms of their profession. The median salary for a CPS teacher is nearly $95,000. That's 21% more than teachers make in Cook County suburbs, and that's just Cook County is the suburb, the suburbs outside of Chicago. Matter of fact, the city of Chicago is in Cook County, where median pay is $78,000. What's more, CPS says it pays teachers more than any other large school district in the nation, and that's before whatever increases they get in union contract negotiation. They're ongoing, and they're asking, you know what the Chicago teachers are asking for? A annual pay raise each year. You know what they want annual pay raise?
No, what is it?
9%.
Oh, that makes sense. Now that tracks exactly with their students' performance, right?
No, just the opposite.
Are you sure it doesn't? Like students are getting 9% better every year, right?
And here's they go on to say the Chicago Teachers Union continues to demand 9% annual raises, an outlandish ask, and is growing ever more shrill as CPS CEO Pedro Martinez and his administration try to hold the line on behalf of Chicago's beleaguered taxpayers and in face of heavy pressure from Mayor Brandon Johnson to give CTU everything it wants. And if I'm not mistaken, Brandon Johnson, who is the current mayor, wasn't he like a lobbyist or something for the school board? Wasn't that what he did? He was involved somehow with the school board.
Yeah, there was something involved there. Yeah, we've talked about it once before on the show, but yeah, something like that.
And then get this, it gets even better. The Tribune editorial board also noted that the Chicago public school system was suffering from chronic absenteeism. Once again, reading from their editorial. So given the audacity of these CTU demands and salaries that already are among the highest in the nation, one might think that CPS teachers would be motivated to show up for work. School administrators tend to put great emphasis on student attendance, but precious little attention is paid to how frequently teachers miss work. It goes on to say, state records show that over 41% of the CPS teachers exceeded 10 days of absence time last year. This is above and beyond their vacation. And here's the vacation. Ready for this? Here we go again. The built-in vacation time allotted to teachers in the CPS. 10 days for winter break, 5 days for spring break, 8 additional days off for holidays, according to the outlet. I mean, once again, I complain about this all the time. It's like, can anybody just work 5 days a week anymore? I mean, we're getting into that time of the year right now where there's so many people who are off this entire week, okay? They're not working. And then we have, a couple, 2-3 weeks before we have, the holidays. And then we have, since Christmas is on a Wednesday, so you would think that people work up to the Friday of that weekend? No.
No, of course not.
There's people who are probably going to take off the Wednesday before Christmas and then come back and won't come back till the Monday after New Year's, which would be like what? first, second, third, fourth, fifth, something like that. Was that right? Because New Year's Day is on a Wednesday, so Thursday and Friday would be first, second, weekend would be third and fourth. So the first official day from people back from, the holidays would be the 5th. Now, back in the day, when I went to SIU Edwardsville, we were on the quarter system, and our first day of school was always the day after New Year's Day. And it didn't matter if New Year's Day fell like on a Wednesday, even to the point, I think we had it one time where New Year's Day fell on a Thursday. We went back to school on Friday. Now, they switched from that, and, I just don't, it just frustrates me. Their educational system, and here we go again. I know I say here we go again too many times, but they don't care if they're turning out a decent product. They just want more money. And I find a problem with that. I mean, when you have the median income for a teacher, $95,000 a year, I mean, some of the districts in St. Louis County, in St. Charles County, I think I've heard some of the teachers complain about that they start out at like, $45,000 a year, something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about this, John? I mean,
I think that it's the union's job to fight for whatever ridiculous salary and time off they can get. And I think it's not in their purview, Brad, for them to care about student performance. It's in their purview to care about a salary. And when you start a sentence, Brad, with they should, we have a listener to the show that she and I discuss this quite often. When you start a sentence with they should, well, sure, Brad, sure, the union should care about student performance. If I'm a union member, I say, yeah, whatever, teach the kids. Where's my money? Where's my time off? That's what I want. And the other flip side of that too, though, Brad, I would make the argument that for anything, and I know how you feel about returning to the office, but this is not 1984. This is not 2004. This is not even 2014. If you are a high-performing worker in a white-collar job in St. Louis, and your company says, hey, we're going to need you guys to be in the office 3 days a week, you tell them to stick it. You're not going to go to the office 3 days a week. When are you going to do your laundry? When are you going to get your nails done? When are you going to make your mid-afternoon Starbucks run? You're not going to go in the office 3 days a week, Brad. And just because you and I were not brought up on it doesn't mean that it's not the way of the world.
But, I didn't talk about this. I teased this last week. I used to be, I listened to, I've talked about this before. One of my favorite things, I used to work, when I first bought the radio station, I would work my day job, and then I worked my night job running the radio station, believe it or not. And I would get off at about 10 o'clock at night, and I would drive home, and I would listen Monday through Friday. I would listen to Loveline with Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew Pinsky, okay? Adam Carolla is an interesting character. He came from and he talks about this all the time, came from a incredibly dysfunctional family. He kids about, his mom and dad being terrible people. I mean, goes out and says that. Talks about how they were lazy and things like that. He went into a rant, and I was exercising last week. Yes, I do exercise. And I hadn't listened to him for a while, and they have resurrected the Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla show. It's one of the podcasts that Adam turns out. I think they do it like 3 days a week. And Adam talked about the fact that he's employed through his company. He does podcasts. He does other stuff as well, too. He hires a lot of people, primarily under 40. And he said that in the years he's been doing this, he's probably had hundreds of employees working for him and currently working for him who are under 40, who, if he said you have to come into work on Saturday, they would quit. They would just say, not doing that, not working Saturday, not working weekends. And he talks about the successful people that he knows, and he reads off a bunch of names. Matter of fact, he's good friends with, his name was in the news just recently again, Mark Garagos. You know who Garagos is?
No, I don't.
He's a very prominent attorney. Matter of fact, he was just in the news because he was representing somebody. He's one of these guys that he's not on the tier of some of these super high-profile attorneys, but he's like a level below that. He's very, very well known in the legal field. And he said if he asks one of his very successful friends, what are you doing this weekend? He says 9 times out of 10, they will tell you they're working at least one day out of the weekend and some days 2. And he is a big MMA guy, and he talks about the fact that most of the successful people are in the octagon And most of the unsuccessful people are the people who are just moving along in their lives and doing the bare minimum to, get a paycheck and keep a roof under their head, are outside the octagon. You see the reference there?
I do. Yeah, I like that. And you teased that the other day, Brad. I'm glad you got around to it because I was misinterpreting when you said that the other day. I was like, I thought it was going to be kind of that Teddy Roosevelt in the arena thing. I guess in some ways it is. But I'm glad you followed through with that.
Yeah.
I like that analogy.
He's referencing the MMA, obviously the octagon, and he's referencing the fact that the people who are the fighters are at it day in and day out. They're working out every single day. They're doing weight training. They're doing, cardio. They're watching their diet. They're doing this and doing that because they are the elite. Hold on a minute. They are the elite performers who are the ones that everybody else watches. And I remember an interesting thing that another guy said that I wrote down, and I don't think I wrote it down correctly. I'm driving along, and I don't think I wrote it down exactly the way it was. But he was saying that people, for the most part, there's two categories of people. People who are in the game and people that are watching the game. And the idea being that you can be one of those people out in the field, in the octagon, where, on the pitch, whatever you want to, whatever the playing field is, and you are the elite because you work it every single day. Or you can be the people who are in the stands who, for the most part, some are retired, some of them work part-time, some of them have a job where they don't have to work that hard. Some of them are teachers, and they're just moving along, and they're just happy with life. They're just happy with what they have. They're looking forward to retirements where they don't have to go to work anymore, that kind of a thing. And the other thing I heard just yesterday was an interview with the guy, and I didn't even catch who the guy was. It was something I was just punching buttons, and I came in on the end of an interview. And he was talking about, he lives in New York City, and he runs into all these immigrants who have legally immigrated to the United States. And he says a lot of them from African countries, and they're amazed that they hear there are people talking about that they want to blow up this country. And not the immigrants, the people live here. Well, this country's not fair. It's biased against, blah, blah, blah. And they all say, this is the world's best country. Trust us, we've lived in really crappy places. Why would anybody want to blow up this wonderful country? And once again, people are spoiled, don't you think?
I think so. And I think also, Brad, first of all, I think you and I are 95% aligned on this. Unfortunately, we agree about 95% of the stuff right here. But my only pushback is there are plenty of people, excuse me, that are happy to be outside of the octagon and not involved and not fighting. And that's their choice to not lead a life of hard work and of struggle and of failure and maybe eventual success. But the other thing is the flip side of that is when those type of people outside the octagon criticize you, you take it for what it's worth, which is what they're not the doers. They're the people that go home after they log off their computer and they numb themselves with television and YouTube and drugs and alcohol. And if they're not managing their offspring, which should be their primary responsibility, why aren't they working? Why aren't they building something? Why aren't they making a dent in the universe? Because they're lazy. Because they heard that there's a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And they think, I'm just going to work smarter, not harder. No, they're just not working hard enough. But Brad, that's their choice. I mean, it's their choice to be lazy. It's their choice to do the bare minimum just to get by. And they have that choice. But you and I can't speak for you. I don't have to pretend that I value their opinion. I don't have to pretend that when they criticize something I do that I can't pretend to care about their feedback. You get what I'm saying? Because they're not actually doing anything of substance.
I do. And let's take a big picture look at this. Wasn't the election we had earlier this month sort of a denial of the Democratic idea of, hey, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that? I mean, all the different things that have come out, the woke stuff that's now on the ropes. There was a story just this morning about Walmart is getting rid of most of its DEI program.
Yeah, just had it up. I had it up because I was looking up the 3-day work week stuff, Brad. You're right. It was a rejection of that whole idea.
Right, and to the point where I think what's interesting is that you go through, and this is going to be interesting as they get more into they dive deep into the voting statistics. The interesting part of this was that there were all sorts of people that voted for Trump that the Democrats thought they had a lock on. You know what I mean?
Of course, absolutely. Even though some of those demographics still voted a majority for Kamala Harris, Trump took a huge bite of some of those constituencies.
Exactly. And did he get all the Latino vote? No. Did he get all the black vote? No. But he got a much larger percentage of the minorities who, once again, you go back to 4 years ago with Joe Biden on Charlemagne the God. We've talked about this the other day. He ends his performance on Charlemagne the God. If you ain't black, you don't vote for me, you ain't black. I mean, how much racial can you get? That would be like me saying, hey man, if you don't go to White Castle and order a number one with a mix, you aren't black. Now, do you know the significance of that?
No, but I do want somebody who's Mocha Java to explain it to me.
Okay. Me hanging out at the White Castles, not in the white neighborhoods, but in the black neighborhoods, because the best White Castles are always in the not so great neighborhoods. Trust me, I know this. Okay. And I was behind, this is going back years ago, I was behind three guys in a row, three black gentlemen in front of me who ordered like the number one with a mix. And the lady just took it like, she knew exactly what they were asking for. And I get up there and I go, can I ask a dumb question? What's a mix? And she says, it's half Pepsi and half orange.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, Brad.
Well, I thought to myself, I don't know what this is about. But once again, it's one of those little things that in the black community, apparently, I don't know if maybe it's not anymore, but back in the day, this is like maybe 15 years ago, back in the day, it was like a regular thing because these three dudes in front of me ordered a mix and she knew exactly what they wanted, and I'm thinking to myself, isn't that interesting? I mean, once again, and it's to the point where there are certain, neighborhoods you go in where there's ethnic foods that, they know what you're talking about if you order a blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? It's to the point where I find that fascinating. I mean, like just one of the things, you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but my youngest son, when he lived in Kansas City, I don't like pizzas. I like pizzas that are sort of well done. I mean, to the point where some people might even consider them burnt.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
My son worked at a, what's the pizza chain? God, my mind's gone blank this morning. Anyway,
Solos.
No, not Solos. That's not a pizza chain. With the guy that they fired, the guy who was the head of the thing.
Papa John's?
Papa John's. He worked at Papa John's, okay? And he said there was a door on the oven, because they use those conveyor belt ovens. There was a door on the oven about midway from the beginning to the end of the oven, and if someone ordered the pizza well done, it would come through the conveyor belt. They would pull it off the conveyor belt. They would open up the door and put it back on the conveyor belt, so it essentially made 1.5 passes through the oven. And I'm going, really? So now I've looked at the Domino's ovens and I don't see that. But he says that's a regular feature on the Papa John's ovens, and that they get a lot of people that like to have their pizzas a little bit more well done, and that's why they order at Papa John's, because they have the door halfway through the oven, which gives it a time and a half through the oven. See the important things you learn from listening to this show, John?
I do. That is a fantastic pizza anecdote. And we could recreate that at our own houses, Brad, just based on your own specification, right?
Right. Okay. And by the way, next break, should I tell the infamous father-in-law story that my father-in-law, who is long gone, and I do miss him, how I got in trouble with him one day at Thanksgiving years ago? Should I tell that story since we're coming up on Thanksgiving?
Please do.
Okay. We're coming up on Block C. This is the end of Block B.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?